Hello and welcome to this IANA webinar, Veterans and the Intermodal Workforce of the Future, Recruiting and Retaining Our Veterans. I'm Hal Pollard, the Director of Education at IANA. Today's session will provide you with some practical tools and advice to help you tap into the pipeline of nearly 200,000 adaptive, trustworthy, and highly qualified veterans that separate from our armed services each year. I'm pleased to introduce today's panel. Mark Toll, the Veterans Employment Manager for the Office of Strategic Outreach with Veterans and Employment and Training Services, or VETS, for the U.S. Department of Labor. Mark, a Marine Corps veteran, will share tips on navigating the various programs that exist to help connect veterans and employers. Jim Morbach, the Associate Vice President for Student and Government Recruiting with Werner Enterprises. Jim, an Army veteran, will share some firsthand experience with Werner's award-winning programs. Now, over to you, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Hal. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide some information to you. As Hal said, I am a 28-year Marine veteran and have the great opportunity of working with DOL, Veterans Employment Training Service, to help employers connect with federal, state, and local resources to make it easier for you all to find and hire veterans. I'm also happy to be with Jim from Werner Trucks. I can tell you, Werner has been in the veteran employment space and has done a phenomenal job connecting with resources in their apprenticeship program to hire and retain veterans. So it's great to have Werner Trucks with us as well. First thing I want to talk about is a little bit about veteran demographics. And when I deal with employers, all the employers, what they tell me is basically, I want a van full of veterans on my front doorstep today so I can hire them. And oh, by the way, I want them right off an installation because I really want them young. And that's not really a reality right now. So let me tell you, you can see it on the slide. Usually when I'm in front of an audience, I ask what they think the average age is of a veteran in the United States. And they may get within 20 years of this, but the average age is 64 years old of a U.S. veteran right now. To keep it very simple, there's a little over 20 million veterans in the United States, but only a little over 10 million are in the workforce. And then when employers want the under 25 age group, it only represents about 6% of our veterans in the workforce. So when we look at the veteran unemployment, in 2016, of the 409,000 unemployed veterans, 79% of these were 45 years old or older. So for all the employers, just don't focus on the younger ones. Please focus on veterans of all age. DoD still produces about 200,000 veterans that transition every year into the workforce or to school or other things. Last year was actually about 180,000 transitioning service members that left the service. Good news, decline in unemployment rates, the lowest in 9 years, and it continues to be lower than non-veterans. So the next slide shows what I'm talking about a lower unemployment rate. You can see in 2016, veterans was 4.3% compared to 4.7% for their non-veteran peers. In March 2017, just last month, it was 3.9% for veterans. And then when we look at the younger veterans, these are basically less than 25 years old. Again, this only represents about 6% of the workforce. They're a little bit higher at 9.2%, but they're still less than their non-veteran peers at 9.6%. The reason they're a little bit higher, because this age cohort usually has a little bit of a higher unemployment rate because of various factors that's associated with young folks under the age of 25. So the purpose of this slide is to show you that we are one agency within many in the Department of Labor. Department of Labor is the federal arm of all things employment for the federal government. Within DOL, Veterans Employment Training Service is the voice of veterans. And then within the veteran employment space, we leverage all of the different agencies within Department of Labor to help facilitate veteran employment. If there's one thing I'd like to leave you with today is please take a look at our veterans.gov website. There's some really good information for both job seekers but also for employers. As you can see on the right, you can see the different buttons, and I'll show you later in the brief what happens when you click on Hire Veterans. But also, it's for veterans and transitioning service members to explore opportunities with our federal partners. And also, if you look at the state map below, When you click on a certain state, a state page will show up, and they'll have resources for both veteran job seekers, but also employers seeking veterans. So I would ask that take a look at this website, and I think you'll find it useful. This is our mission statement, and I'll be covering all of this as we go through the brief, but basically we call it the 4 Ps. We prepare America's veterans, transitioning service members, and spouses for meaningful employment. And this is we do within the Transition Assistance Program. We provide a 3-day Department of Labor employment workshop. We provide employment resources. This is primarily through the state workforce system. We protect employment rights, that's with USERA, and we promote their employment opportunities with an employer outreach team, and that's what I do. So for preparing the Transition Assistance Program, it was a big change in about 2012 with the Veterans Opportunity to Work Act that made it mandatory for all transitioning service members to go through TAP. And also it made a standardized curriculum so that every transitioning service member, no matter what installation they attend, Transition Assistance Program will get the same type of curriculum that leads to measurable career readiness standards. So it's basically 5 days long. Out of those 5 days, DOD has a day, VA has a day, and then Department of Labor has a 3-day employment workshop. You can see some of the statistics there. We provided 206 locations worldwide to almost 181,000 participants last year. Additionally, there's some specialized tracks, which means a person can go ahead and sign up for a 2-day track. You'll see the career technical training, and that has been instructed by the VA. Starting this month, Department of Labor will be taking that over. So we provide employment resources, and that's through the American Job Centers. And these are the local resources. Basically, DOL funds these American Job Centers. There's workforce development boards that manage them in local areas. Last year, AJC's American Job Centers assisted 13 million job seekers, of which 832,000 were veterans. And it provides a local resource for both job seekers and employers to connect, and not only to connect in the local community, but also to tie into other resources to address skill gaps as well. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So there's a little over 2,400 American Job Centers nationwide. So a lot of times when I'm dealing with employers, I direct them to an American Job Center, and they don't even realize it's within a mile or two from them. Again, these are free resources to employers and job seekers as well. So here's the concept. We at Department of Labor, we direct and encourage all transitioning service members, veterans, and their spouses to connect with the local AJC, whether it's outside the installation in which they're transitioning, or the American Job Center in hometown USA where they're going to be settling. We believe it is the only free, it's actually not free, it's prepaid by the American taxpayer service that provides one-on-one employment assistance. Additionally, we direct employers. We understand that most employers are small and medium-sized businesses that do not have an HR department. So we direct employers to their local American Job Centers where they can get their jobs posted, where they can get connected with veterans that are seeking employment, can help them get with their position descriptions, career fairs, etc. And this slide just shows some of the employer services available to employers at American Job Centers. Now, I would like to add that I am going through these slides fairly quickly so we can give Jim and Werner some time to speak. You will have a copy of these slides. Additionally, if any of you have any questions about some of this information, please reach out to me. You have my email address on the front slide, and I'd be more than happy to talk you through it or connect you with the subject matter expert. So this is kind of the flow of what we try to do here is, if you're interested in connecting with a veteran, contact myself or one of our veteran employment outreach team, and I'll show you later in the brief how to connect with them. We'll get you connected into American Job Center. If you're a national or a regional employer, we'll get you connected into the state veteran coordinator and the right folks in the state, and we can help you coordinate between. That's what we do. But we'll get you connected into the state workforce. We can help you with your job descriptions, making sure it's veteran friendly. You can post the job for free in the state job bank, and that's with the National Labor Exchange on us.jobs. This is the job bank in which we direct all employers to use. Additionally, if there is a skill gap, we will encourage you to work with an American Job Center and the Workforce Development Board that manages that American Job Center so that you could take a look at an OJT, internship, or apprenticeship programs and leverage local training providers as well. So one thing I want to mention on the Workforce Development Boards, without getting into the details, but the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act established requirements for workforce development boards. And one of those requirements is using funds to develop career ladders and also trying to put together training pipelines in the local community where employers have a need, there's job seekers, connecting them in with a local training provider to provide that employer with a skilled up job seeker that an employer can hire with the right credentials for that particular job. So I would encourage everybody to connect not only with that American Job Center, but also with that Workforce Development Board. There is funds with the boards in the local area that may be able to offset some training needs. Each state manages the money a little bit differently in different areas, but I encourage employers to connect with the Workforce Development Boards. Do your research. It'll be a good business decision, as there may be, I don't say there will be, but there may be some funds that can help you train up the workforce. And this is how you connect with your local Workforce Development Board. Just go to that website on servicelocator.org, type in your zip code, and it'll come up with the information. Again, please go to veterans.gov to connect with the Veteran Outreach Team. Just click on Hire Veterans. This screen will come up. You can go directly to an American Job Center in the bottom right. Just put in the zip code, and then the different American Job Centers within 25 miles will show up. Just click on the one closest to you, and they can provide you services. Or click on one-on-one assistance, and this is how you could connect with our employer outreach team. If you're a national or a regional employer, go ahead and connect with me. You can see my name at the bottom. If you click on there, it'll automatically go to your Outlook, and then you can send me an email. Or if you're a localized or an employer in a state, pick a state, drop-down menu, click on it, and it'll get you to the correct regional veterans employment coordinator. So I want to talk apprenticeships. I think apprenticeships are going viral, I'd say, the last couple of years. And I'll tell you why, especially in the veteran space. Number one, there's employers, just like the employers on this call, that have skill sets that have to be met, whether it be a CDL or another credential or license that is required for your skilled workforce. One of the neat things is with the GI Bill, the post 9/11 GI Bill, we figured that not all veterans that have this benefit are going to go to a 4-year traditional college or university or a community college. Many that have a young family cannot afford to go off to college. An apprenticeship is a great opportunity for them to leverage their benefits. So if they go into an apprenticeship program, they will get a housing allowance, a tax-free housing allowance. So if you're in New York City, for example, that could be $3,000. If you're in the middle of Illinois or some other state, it may be $1,200 a month. This is a tax-free living stipend that can help augment the apprentice wages as a veteran goes through the training. So they'll get 100%, let's just say it's $1,000 a month. They'll get $1,000 for the first 6 months. The next 6 months, it'll drop to 80%, so $800. Then the next 6 months after that, $600, etc. The idea is as their wages increase in an apprenticeship program based on their experience, the housing allowance then decreases. So this has been a fantastic benefit, and it has attracted more veterans into the apprenticeship fields. It's a good business decision. There's several studies that show that it's a good business decision to hire veterans as far as productivity, retention, etc. Additionally, as we mentioned, it's getting harder to find qualified veterans, especially all the employers. A lot of industry is going specifically after veterans because they know it's a good business decision. Starting an apprenticeship program will attract more veterans, especially with their GI Bill. So some national stats for you. I won't go through it, but one of the things I just want to highlight for you is there are several studies that look at the return investment for employers. There was about 4 of them that I've been able to review. There was one in Canada that showed $1.47 back. Also, there was a few more that were done here in the United States, and almost every single one of these studies is at about a ROI of about $1.50. So it is, again, it's proven that it is a good business decision to start an apprenticeship program, not only for veterans, but for non-veterans as well. So these are just some of the benefits. Once we get you connected, either with a regional office of apprenticeship or the national one, they'll help you. It's becoming easier. It's an easier way. They've got templates that can help you put together a registered apprenticeship program. Once you have a DOL register, there's a level of credibility for those approved standards. And again, one of the things is once you complete the program, it's a nationally recognized credential, and it helps as a recruiting tool, and also it helps attract veterans that are transitioning out of their service that can use their GI Bill. There is what they call a career skills program, Skill Bridge, that allows transitioning service members the last 6 months while they're on active duty to enroll in a pre-apprenticeship program, either on the installation or off the installation while on active duty. There's 2 rules to this. Number 1, there should be no cost to the veteran, and number 2, it should lead to meaningful employment in a job or continue in a registered apprenticeship program. So, Truth in Advertising, the Air Force, a DOD policy, and it authorizes the different services and installations to provide this. In practice, the Army has embraced this much more than the other services. I'm not sure on Navy or Air Force installations if I can't think of any off the top of my head. I know in the Marine Corps installations, there's only a couple, and those are the major installations. But the Army installations with their career skills program are the ones that have really embraced this. So more opportunity with the Army and the Skill Bridge than the other services. Again, just trying to keep it real for everyone here. I'm not going to go through this to save time, but there are 4 required attributes to be determined apprenticeable, and it is regulatory. They've got to learn their skills in a practical way through structured and supervised job learning. That 2,000 hours basically equates to a year. The occupation has to be recognized by the industry, so DOL just isn't going to make up occupations, and there has to be an academic component, and DOL recommends 144 hours for each year of the program. And these are the components of any registered program: employer involvement, hiring them, structured and supervised OJT, what they call RTI, related training and instruction, 144 hours, progressive wage increases as they go through the training, and they have to come out of it with a credential that's recognized. All right, here's a website for you to take a look at, one of them. And if you go to the next slide, and here is several sites: Quick Start Toolkit, Federal Resources Playbook, DOL registration site, etc., that you can take a look at. Now, if you're interested in any of this, if you email me, we'll start the conversation, and I will get you connected in with the appropriate folks at the Office of Apprenticeship, whether it's at the national office or at a regional office, and there's 6 regional offices across the United States. Okay, promote. This is the team that I work with, our employer outreach team. And basically, bottom line, we make it easier for employers to find and hire veterans. And really, that number 3 has really been a lot of our job lately, is to educate and consult and help employers address skill gaps and track veterans through apprenticeships and other programs. There's about 60,000 different organizations in the veteran space. Some are for-profit, some are not for-profit, but it's still going to cost money. And what we do is we connect you with the no-cost federal, state, and local resources: Marine for Life, Soldier for Life, different resources that we work with, state workforce agencies, Office of Apprenticeship. If you're interested in connecting with a certain installation, we'll get you connected with the Career Skills Program, and we'll help you in any way we can. And this is the team. There's my email on the top left, and there's the regions along with the emails, addresses, so feel free to connect with them, or if you connect with me, I'll get you in touch with the right folks. And this is some of the resources: veterans.gov, where you can visit your local American Job Center. So, Hal, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Now I'm pleased to kick it over to you, Jim, and let you tell us a little bit about your experience working with recruiting and retaining veterans.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks. Hey, Mark, you did a great job. You really hooked up those veteran Marines across the world, so you did them proud, so appreciate that. I'm going to be as transparent as I can be. Please understand I can't give you all of our secret sauce, because if I did, I probably wouldn't have a job, and I love Werner, so, I wouldn't be in that situation. Ultimately, hiring veterans, it's a mindset. It's our American duty to hire veterans. If that is not your company or your true belief in doing it, and you're doing it only because it's the in thing, you're going to fail. You have to have a passion for what you do, and Werner, we've been hiring veterans since before it was the in thing. I can give you my perspective. Out of my 21 years of military service, I spent 16 and a half years in security forces and 4.5 in recruiting and retention. My 4+ years as a first sergeant was probably by far my most enjoyable. I've been at Werner for about 5.5 years. I started as our manager of military recruiting, and then the last 5 years, things kind of progressed for me. And the last year and a half, I've had the same positions. I oversee our student driver recruiting department, our external and internal team of recruiters. There's approximately 800 truck driving schools that I take care of, where I'm kind of the go-to person for that. 13 of those schools we actually own. They're in our own school network. And then veteran recruiting falls under me, and then federal and state government regulatory issues, everything from entry-level driver training, funding for truck driving schools, veteran initiatives, state Class A, testing delays, type of thing. So I think in the last 30 days, I've been out in D.C. twice talking to members of the House, Senate, and Appropriations Committee. So I at Werner to help our veterans and the industry as well. We actually integrate and tie in our driver recruiting with veteran hiring. With the driver shortage and challenge to find front of the class quality people, which I'm sure you all have the same challenges. We focus strongly on veterans. The retention's better with them. They come with that mindset and that can-do attitude. With that, we recruit from bases, the 800+ truck driving schools, and a few other things in there. I think the success for Werner that we've had is we're very innovative and we lead the way. What do we learn in the military? Flexibility, communication is key to success, right? We were the first transportation company to develop a Department of Labor and VA-approved apprenticeship program for drivers. We were the first to develop a Department of Labor and VA apprenticeship program for mechanics. In our driver apprenticeship program, if a veteran has GI Bill eligibility, they can earn over $24,000 of the tax-free benefits in addition to their normal pay in the 2-year program. In the diesel technician program, they can earn just over $28,000 of their GI Bill money. So when you talk about taking care of your veterans and maybe a retention tool, the apprenticeship program is great. And our apprenticeship program, for all drivers with less than 24 months experience, currently have 5,872 apprentices enrolled in our program. 917 are veterans, and 476 are actually veterans utilizing their GI Bill benefits. And you got to keep in mind, it's not just post 9/11. There's the Chapter 1606, 1607, and all the other ones out there, Chapter 30. So, it's not only post 9/11. So keep that in mind. So Guard, Reserve, active duty, they all fall under that. Mark really talked a lot about the apprenticeship programs, but it is so important to know the technical side. There are VA audits, there are DOL, Department of Labor audits. You got to know compliance. You need to have a subject matter expert. I'll be, I don't want to say arrogant, but we have the greatest team of people that work for me in our government military recruiting side. They know that every detail and every regulation there is out there. And then that's what's important to keep you out of trouble and keep your veterans happy. If you're not getting them paid in time because you're not submitting the right paperwork, that's an unhappy face. You got to be willing to go all in and provide the resources. When I first started, we were basically a one-person, veteran recruiting shop. It's like, did the recruiting, process a lot of the DOL, VA paperwork, and all that stuff. Now we have a team. We have myself, then we have a director, we have managers, we have specialists that take care of our veterans and anything we need to do there. Being out front, transition summits, veteran hiring events, being proactive and working with, where you get your source of employees from, where are you looking at? Veterans, they want to be led. They want to know what's expected of them. They want to know what their career path is. And it's just the same mindset. If you bring them in and you just kind of say, here you go, that's not the world they're used to. And it doesn't matter if you're a first termer or you're a 28-year retired Marine. It is what it is, and they got to know what's expected of them. Set those expectations up. We call our Operation Freedom, which is our entire veteran recruiting initiatives. Under that, we have an umbrella of numerous different things. So, it's like little things we do on the side of our trucks. If you're a veteran, you get a veteran decal. Whether it has your rank or your service you attended, and we also have them for military spouses. So if you were in the Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, you get a decal that says on your truck, hey, I served in that component. We're involved in a lot of different organizations, Military Spouse Employment Program, ESGR, White House initiatives. Those are all important. We have a Infinity program. It's kind of a networking and monitoring program for associates. That's where like-minded veterans can kind of communicate back and forth. They'll say, hey, what's going on? What do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? They can kind of work stuff off of each other. That's important because it kind of keeps that, I don't want to say brotherhood or camaraderie. I think that's important. We have our Freedom Fleet. You can see that on the slides. We rolled that out, I think 2012 was our first truck, and we are extremely proud of those individuals that drive those. They're out there on the road showing our support, what we do for veterans. Those drivers of those guys, the stories they tell are amazing. And there's one story where a lady came up and started giving one of our drivers a hug because her son was killed in Iraq, and she's like, thank you for, your inspiration, what you do. We rolled out we're really strong with the Guard and Reserve. We rolled out a ESGR truck recently, and then we also kind of ties into veterans as well. We have Operation Hero. We just rolled out a program that supports first responders, law enforcement, and firefighters. We just did that here last week was the first truck that went out. So in a lot of law enforcement and firefighters are prior military. So stuff, again, it's being it's showing the initiative, it's being out front of everybody else and doing what's cool. Military skills waiver testing, this applies more to the CDLs. So if you had a military experience driving a truck, we'll give you credit for that and different pay and stuff. So we recognize what people did in the military. Program recognition. Over the years, we've constantly won a number of awards. These are so important because these accolades build your credibility. It's a lot of work. Some of these, I kid you not, are 15 to 25 pages of stuff you have to put up. You got to get stats. You got to run HR. We track everything. I think the person who runs our IT department, I get on their nerves so bad because we're, hey, can we track this down? Hey, can we track this? And how can we track that type thing? So, but you have to have that in order to build your credibility. We've been, just to name a couple of recognitions, I'll never apologize for, bragging about what we do sometimes because our team is just absolutely amazing what they do for us. But military-friendly employer, military spouse-friendly employer for GI jobs. 13 years in a row, we've been recognized with them. Best for Vets for Military Times, Recruit Military Most Valuable Employer. The ESGR, we've done really well with them. Got the Extraordinary Employer Support Award, 2 Pro Patriot Awards, 9 Patriot Awards, and Above and Beyond Award. And then recently, actually, this is really cool, the Military Officers Association of America, they got approximately 355,000 members. Our CEO, myself, and my director, and a couple other people from my team, we were in D.C. last week and were awarded a Distinguished Service Award. That was a big one, and we're so proud of that. Actually, our CEO, Derek Leathers, in 2013, he and I were in the White House. President Obama, Vice President Biden, and both of their spouses recognized Werner for our veteran hiring program. And Derek actually made the comment. He goes, this event was even cooler than when the president, said it. So again, it's kind of us in a nutshell what we've been through and what we do. And I will tell you, you have an apprenticeship program, you have a veteran hiring program. You have your leadership, and if you are, CEO or senior vice president, you have to be 100% supportive. And because sometimes they're going to say, man, I got to take this trip, I got to do that. You got to be supportive of it because that's the only way you're going to be successful. So that's pretty much all I got.
Hey, this is Mark. I just want to say you really threw some gems out there. And from my perspective, you deal with employers, and like Jim said, if you're not full in, you're not going to get the results. So, the management, the leadership, the HR, they have to be full in. And the best way to recruit veterans is if your veterans are happy within your company and they know that they're appreciated. I've had employers double their numbers by just putting together a veterans affinity group and letting them know that they're looking for more veterans with the same attributes that they bring to that company. So Jim, you did a great job on that. You really threw some gems out there. You all can ignore what I said, but I would certainly re-listen to what Jim had to say.
We do, like our executive team, we go out to we have a lot of terminals out there, and we have driver meetings. And Derek Leathers, our CEO, he's always wants to be in front of the drivers, and he takes questions. Sometimes questions are what they are. And one of the terminal tours, this was a couple years ago, a driver said, hey, you have this Operation Freedom, you have this apprenticeship program. He goes, don't you think you do enough for veterans? And Derek looked that guy in the eye and goes, is that possible? Can we ever do enough for our veterans? And that's the strong leadership we have, and that funnels down through my boss, through me, and through my team, and every associate and driver at Werner. We can never do enough to help our veterans. And then that's it. If somebody on my team doesn't have the passion and going to go above and beyond for somebody, then they'll go work someplace else. And you have to have that mindset and you have to want to do it and then believe in it.
That's great, Jim. Hey, we got a couple of questions here. One is a question around the skills recognition program that you talked about, Jim. Could you elucidate a little bit more about that program and how it fits into your overall structure of looking at and honoring the difficult training that veterans went through while they were in service?
Oh, are you talking the military skills waiver testing?
Give them credit. Sure.
Yeah. So that's so somebody if they have documented documents that they were a truck driver in the military and they provide those documents, we will give them 12 months credit for what they did. Their training program with the trainer will be less. We can offer them an automatic truck or a manual transmission, whatever they want. You know, in the military, they drive automatic trucks. So we built that into where if somebody wants to come to Werner and they want an automatic, we can guarantee they'll get an automatic truck. And then plus then we tie in our GI Bill apprenticeship program. Something on top of that also, you know, right now to have an interstate license, you have to be 21 years or older. We've been working with the FMCSA on an 18 to 20-year-old pilot program. Hopefully we'll be rolling that out here soon, and we have our training program already established. We have everything ready to go with that program. So very supportive of that. We're hoping that kind of ties into our military skills waiver testing, the 18 to 21-year-olds, because you have to go for Class A right now. Go interstate, you have to be 21 or over, and we want to be able to have somebody cross state lines when they're hauling freight.
Hey, Hal, one thing to add, if you go to veterans.gov and you click on Department of Transportation, you'll see some links on there from FMSCA that specifically show some of the regulations with the waiver. So the paperwork is right there. That's how you get to it. Veterans.gov, click on Department of Transportation, and you'll see the waiver information from FMSCA.
FMCSA, and that's a great segue into a next question, which I think you just answered, Mark, which was, does those skill programs apply to owner-operators? And I believe that if you go to the FMCSA website that Mark is just talking about, that should have information there to fill in that gap.
Yeah, I think so, and if not, let me know with your questions, because Selden Fritzner is the guy that runs the program, and I can get you connected with any detailed questions that you have.
We got another question, and it's around areas outside of drivers. Obviously, not everybody that's coming out of the military has a driving background. Jim, you mentioned that you've got an apprenticeship program for mechanic. Could you just say a couple words about that, and then talk about, are there any other areas within your organization where you're finding and placing veterans?
Yeah, we started the mechanic apprenticeship program June of 2015 is when we rolled that out. But when you start talking about an organization like ours, fleet managers and recruiting specialists and safety specialists and stuff, our human resources, again, it starts from the top. So all of our human resources specialists, and then we love the skill sets. And every department, every department head, VP, you get somebody who's a veteran. It's like, okay, whether it be a fleet manager, IT, or whatever, we do actively recruit and hire those individuals as well too.
And Hal, I would just add, if an employer has a skill gap or has an occupation and they want to attract more veterans, for example, Amazon just had a veteran apprenticeship program for iCloud support. The apprenticeships and Department of Labor's officer apprenticeship will work with you, but it's not just CDLs and pipe fitters and iron workers anymore. It's IT field, healthcare industry. Heck, we just had one for an energy trading company, an apprenticeship that was approved, maritime industry. So if there's 1,000 apprenticeable occupations, and the Department of Labor will work with you to put together an apprenticeship program that addresses a skill gap and meets that employer's needs.
And that's great. I know that we talk with a lot of our members about what's over the horizon, and there's a lot of talk around the driver shortage that we're starting to sort of get the first ripples of. But there's a similar discussion in the logistician community, 3PLs in particular, starting to show a little bit of concern about there being a good supply of well-qualified and the right kind of candidate for those jobs. And I think that they line up really well with what we're seeing coming out of the veteran community with the skills and the training that those folks have. And I know for a fact that a lot of our members, particularly the railroads, have done a really good job of incorporating folks coming out of the logistician side of the military into their program. So it's a great thing to see. I think we're coming up on our stop time, but I wanted to kick it back to Jim and Mark and see if you had any other things that you wanted to mention before we go ahead and wrap up.
Hey, this is Mark again. Just want to say thank you for your interest in hiring veterans, and I'm standing by to help any one of you. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me. Thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you for the time. Appreciate it. And this last thing I leave you, I reinforce 100 times, is if you're doing it just because it's the, quote, sexy thing to do, then you're probably going to fail. But if you have true people that believe in what you're doing and been helping veterans, you will be successful.
That's a great note to leave it on, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you both for your participation, and thank you everybody that's on the line or listening. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day.